Alrighty, good evening, everybody. So, welcome to our PYP orientation for the 25-26 school year. My name is Jolynn Cadell. I am the lower school principal here at the Rock School. So just a little bit about tonight. We're going to be going over two pretty large topics. The first one is going to be our actual PYP program. The second is going to be standards-based grading and total. Okay? So without further ado, this is our PYP coordinator, Lindsay Rodriguez, and she is going to be going over with you what actually PYP and IB even is. So here you go.
Thank you, Ms. Cadell. Hello, everyone. I think at this point I have met you or seen you in Carline at this point in time. So I am Lindsay Rodriguez. I am the PYP coordinator, otherwise known as Primary Years Program. And if you're old school, elementary school, so K to 5, okay? So the IB calls our K to 5 program Primary Years Program, and I'm going to talk to you tonight about the essential elements of that. Okay, so first off, why IB? When we think about this question, we go back to our vision statement and see what our goal is here at the Rock School. So here's our vision statement. Hopefully you are familiar with this. If not, you should ask your kids about it because I bet you they know the movements to this one as well. So the PYP is the tool that we use to bring this vision alive in the classroom. It gives us the framework, or like a trellis, that supports growth and learning. Through our curriculum and our units, students build knowledge, skills, and attitudes that help prepare them to courageously cooperate with God in the work of redeeming the world. Here's our goal. We want our students to think beyond themselves, right? Beyond their personal bubble. We want them to notice the needs and the opportunities around them, both here in our school and the world around them. In this way, the PYP helps shape internationally minded students who use God's word as their foundation to make a positive impact on the world. And so we take what PYP has and we take and say, what is our goal here at the Rock School? We use it and we base it off of our vision statement. Big words, right? In the PYPs, students don't just learn subjects in isolation, those siloed ones like we did when we were in school. Instead, they explore these through big ideas that connect across the subjects. We call this transdisciplinary learning. This happens through 6 broad themes, like who we are or how we express ourselves. We help students see how knowledge fits together and applies to the real world around them, not just in that subject area. All the classrooms here at the Rock School begin with who we are, and we did that intentionally because the most important thing at the beginning of the year is to build community and have like-mindedness across our campus of what are routines and procedures. Who are we at the Rock School? At the same time as learning that knowledge, our students in the program emphasize student voice, choice, and ownership. Students are encouraged to ask questions, make decisions about their learning, and take responsibility for their growth, helping them to become more engaged, confident, and purposeful learners. We want them to not just sit open brain, pour in knowledge, closed brain, take a test, and move on. We want them to take that information and look at the world that exists around them and go, how can we apply what we just learned here and there and there? That is the goal. So without further ado, there are 5 essential elements to the PYP. These work together to shape meaningful learning for our students: knowledge, concepts, skills, attitudes, and action. These elements give our students both the foundation that they need and the tools to grow as learners and as disciples. It's one of my favorite parts that we've done with PYP is weaving these learner profiles into everything we do at our school. So like I said before, students don't just learn subjects. They learn them through big ideas that connect across the subject areas. This is called transdisciplinary learning. Knowledge is what students will explore through the transdisciplinary themes. So question, raise your hand if you were here last year as a PYP parent. Okay. Did any of you get to experience Cards a Million from our second grade? If you did, it was amazing. And if you didn't, you need to make sure you come this year when they do it, okay? So in second grade, students explored the theme, how we organize ourselves. Their central idea, which is kind of their big idea that they use to connect all of their learning, was that people create systems to build communities and serve citizens. This knowledge connected across social studies, discipleship, math, language arts, and even art, helping students see how subjects fit together in meaningful ways like a big puzzle. They're not disconnected. We do connect them in real life. The next part of the essential elements is concepts. They're the big ideas that shape learning. We ask questions like, what is changing? How is that connected? In this second grade example, teachers guided students with the concepts of responsibility, connection, and function. Like looking through different camera lenses, these big ideas gave students new perspectives to explore how human-made systems and communities function. They didn't just make cards, they looked at it through a variety of lenses. We focus on skills, and these are not just school skills, the ones that matter in life. The approaches to learning include thinking, communication, social, self-management, and research skills. These are intentionally taught not just in PYP, but in kindergarten through 12th grade, so that students build and strengthen them year after year in our program. In this second grade unit I've been talking about, to make their learning real, students had to practice communication, social, and thinking skills. For example, they had to collaborate. They had to work together to make this work. They had to solve problems that came up like, is that design going to make it into our store? Or do we need to make more because we sold out the first day? They had to clearly share their ideas with one another as they built their community system as a class. This was not individual, and that's tough if you know second graders to do it as a full classroom and not like an individual task. It was a big deal, but they did it. It was so, so cool. And attitudes. In the PYP, we also don't just focus on what students know, we also focus on who they are becoming. The learner profile traits like being caring, being balanced or reflective, they're attitudes that we nurture so that students grow into Christ-centered leaders who can make a difference in the world. This second grade unit, students, their focus in our unit was to become balanced, because that's a lot to handle as a second grader, and also becoming communicators. We didn't just lay out cards and said, come by them. No, from the moment you walked up to that unit, you had greeters, advertisers. You had little hosts that walked you through every station of their unit action piece. It was beautiful. These traits helped them grow as disciples who not only understand systems, but they also showed Christ-like character while working with others. And when we get to the root of it, that ties to our vision statement. It's what we want. And finally, action. Learning doesn't stop at knowledge. It leads to action, and that's real life. We want students to take what they've learned and put it into practice to serve others and impact their community. And action can look very different at all the grade levels, but it always gives students the chance to live out their purpose. This second grade unit, like I mentioned before, culminated in Cards a Million. That was the name they came up with as a class. A student led business. Students applied their learning to design, market, and run a real system that served their community. And when I tell you it was student led, it was. Those students worked from the very beginning of that unit to the very end and reflected on how to make it better the next time. This action piece let them practice leadership, responsibility, and service in a way that made a difference in our community. I know they did for me. So, what are you doing? Parents play a powerful role in making learning meaningful. I get this question a lot. Well, what can I do? How can I help? How can I be involved? These simple, everyday ways to connect with what your child is learning at school with life at home will make a big difference. By asking questions, giving responsibility, affirming Christ-like attitudes, and encouraging action, you're helping your child take ownership of their learning and live it out. And that's different than when most of us went to school, where we got told what to do, right? And we filled in bubbles and we turned in our tests and moved to the next thing. Now we're handing some of that ownership to students so that they feel like they know what to do as they go through the grade levels and they develop. So these are just some ways that you can do this at home. Obviously not an exhaustive list, but if you'd like to take a picture of it, you can. This will also be recorded for later. But as you've seen tonight, the PYP is not actually curriculum. I know that's a thought of a lot of people when you hear it, but it's a framework that helps us live out our vision. By focusing on the knowledge, concepts, skills, attitudes, and action, we're preparing students to courageously partner with God in redeeming the world. We are so thankful for your partnership as parents. Your role is vital in helping students take ownership of their learning and apply it in meaningful ways. Together, school and home, we get to raise disciples who will make a difference both here and around the globe in the future. Thank you guys so very much. I am going to hand it over to Ms. Cadell so you can see how this connects to our grading and reporting in the classroom.
Alrighty, thank you, Lindsay. So I get the really fun part of talking about grading. Yay? I know Lindsay got to do the fun and showcase all of our second grade Cards a Million, which again, I know she said this earlier, but this year, if you get the opportunity to come by and see, it is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal what our students are doing. All right, so reporting on learning. So here at the Rock School, we do something called standards-based grading. Who in here is familiar with this? All right, perfect. Okay, majority are not, and that's why you're here. Okay, so standards-based grading, go ahead and go to the next one. I want to talk about, well, what even is it and what it's not. Okay, so for standards-based grading, it's reflecting on how your child is growing in specific skills and goals and utilizing feedback to feed forward. It is not a traditional A to F scale. We have found with an A to F scale, the system focuses on the accomplishment of the student at the end of a unit or topic, and there's no room for improvement or growth. It's the final score. So, even then, when I was going through standards-based grading, I'm like, I need a visual. Who in here has ever had any experience with construction or moving into a new build home? Okay. I come from a long line of contractors, so when I heard this, I was like, oh, this made perfect sense in my brain. Traditional grading would be as if the building inspector is coming in after the home is built and doing the inspection. Okay? They give an overall score of 75, which is passing. You can now move into your home, but what does that even mean? This is saying that almost, 25% of our house has something wrong with it? What parts? Is there a leaking roof? Do I have a crack in my foundation? Okay, did they do the electrical correctly? Every time I plug in my blender, am I going to have to go reset a fuse? Like, what does that even mean? And this is traditional grading. A 75, okay, that's a C, that's passing. But what does my kid know? And more importantly, what gaps are there? That's where standard based grading comes in. Standards based grading would be as if the building inspector is working alongside the contractor from start to finish. And as we move through each layer, from foundation to framing to plumbing to electrical, you have someone there with you giving you feedback on how to fix, correct, praise, move forward, maybe redo. But we get to celebrate each step of the process versus just getting something at the very end that's not giving me any clue as to where can I improve, where can I get better, where can we celebrate. So if we look, we do have standards that are in place for all of our core subjects and for our activities. When you go in and see grades being entered, you're going to see them in multiple ways. Starting first with formatives. Formatives are where your child is at in the process. Because again, we are building inspectors and contractors working together to work towards standard proficiency. So formatives can look like learning experiences, so activities directly tied to your unit. They can look like observations that are maybe in small group, what the teacher is seeing, whiteboard practice, okay? Either one would be entered in as a formative. And it's simply where your child is at in the process of working towards standard proficiency. Then from there, we have our ATLs, our approaches to learning, okay? These are what tools or skills does your child need to be successful for this standard? So if we are working on let's say one of our 5th grade standards of comparing 2 texts within the same genre, okay? What are some additional skills that kids are going to need to be successful? Well, one of them is time management, okay? Because if we're comparing 2 texts, we have to have time set apart to actually read the 2 texts, go back and find text evidence, okay? And make sure that we're actually writing down what we're finding. That's time management. That's a tool that's not necessarily listed in our standard, but they need it to be successful. And then finally, we have our summatives. Summatives are they there yet? Are we at standard proficiency? Now, summatives are not the end-all be-all. This is just, are we there yet? Because if we're seeing that there are still gaps present, we then in small group can go back and do some more formatives, okay? Because one thing too we need to remember is standard proficiency, all of our standards that we have set are for the end of the school year. So it might be to where we're in February, and let's say we're working on that big 5th grade standard of comparing 2 texts within the same genre, and we do a summative on it. But we have 2 or 3 kids that aren't there yet. That's okay. That doesn't mean, oh, we gave our summative, we're done. So sorry you have that gap, but we got to keep moving forward. No. We get the opportunity to keep working alongside that child to work towards standard proficiency. Because again, we're about the process all the way through from start to finish. So with that, we have 2 grading scales, okay? The first one we're going to go over tonight is knowledge, and this is a 1 to 4 scale that is our core subjects, concepts, and our activities. And then we're going to look at our engagement and responsibilities, okay? This is going to be the scoring that we use for those approaches to learning, those additional tools that we need to be successful. So it is a little small, but I'm gonna walk you guys through. Okay. So this is our knowledge scale, our 1 to 4. Okay. Now I want you guys to look at the verbiage that we are using: emerging, developing, proficient, independent. To meet grade level requirements for that standard, meaning that you are performing on grade level for a standard, you are a 3. Okay? Not a 4. 4 does not mean you are 100%. No, 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 no. Okay? 3 means that you are exactly where you should be for that standard, for that grade level. A lot of questions were coming up that I have heard about, well, what about if my kid is academically advanced? That's where our 4s come in. 4s are ways that kids can take it above and beyond the grade level standard. Okay? It's not meaning that, oh, well, if I'm a 3rd grader, I'm doing 5th grade work. No, 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 no. It's ways that they can extend their learning and be challenged within the classroom. So if we're looking at a 3, we're demonstrating strong understanding and application of concepts. We consistently meet expectations, complete assignments or tasks with mastery, and show initiative and takes responsibility of learning. Okay, so perfect level 3 meeting grade level requirements. Moving into the 4 would be we demonstrate sophisticated understanding and application of concepts. We consistently apply knowledge in innovative ways. We show exceptional creativity and depth of understanding in assignments and tasks. And we exhibit independence and self-direction in learning. So one of the biggest things moving from last year to this year is, well, why is my kid not getting 4s on all of their assignments? They're not going to. Everybody has their strength. And when going through the IB process, remember, we are focusing on the growth and process of over a year, okay? To where we're not going to be 4s on everything. And we have some standards too that don't lend to being a 4, and that's okay. It is also beautiful if our children are landing in 2s. They're developing. We're going to be able to see exactly what gaps they have and be able to support them again to standard proficiency. For this year, we will be doing a lot of pre-assessments of standards. So if you see some 1s and 2s at the beginning of the unit, we expect that because the kids haven't seen it yet. We're just getting a feel for where are they at right now, because with formatives, it's where are they at in the process. And if we're at the beginning of a unit or the beginning of introducing a new standard, we're expecting lots of 1s and 2s. And that's great because then you will get the opportunity to see how your kid progresses with that standard over the course of the year. All right, can we go to the next one? So now moving into our approaches to learning. So these are those separate tools that we need to be successful. And as you notice, we only go to a 2, which on our 1 to 4 scale was developing. There was a reason for this. Okay? Who in here can say that they are exceedingly and abundantly beyond in time management? Exactly. Even as adults, we're still developing those skills, okay? So we're taking the pressure off of students and we're looking at, hey, you're mostly independent in this. I only had to remind you like 1 or 2 times, like, hey, remember, time management, we only have a few minutes left because they need those scaffolding supports, okay? So 2 on our ATLs, our approaches to learning, that's exactly where we want your kid to be because no kid's perfect. Okay? No one's perfect. They're going to need those little gentle reminders, all right? And that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. 1 developing, that just means, hey, maybe I had to remind them a lot more to like, where are we at? Okay, remember, time management, we got to keep going, okay? But then if we see an additional needs, that's more where we want to let you know, hey, your child, they were really having a hard time with time management. And it opens the door for really honest conversations of, hey, Maybe there's something else going on at home. Okay? I had a student last year who, out of nowhere, on their time management, I had to score them as additional needs because they were really having a hard time completing an assignment, which was very unlike this child. I entered it. I was able then to also message mom like, "Hey, I just want to let you know this is going in. Is this was very unlike this child." And mom messaged me back, "We're so sorry. Our dog passed away on Monday." Okay? So these really just open the door to see, okay, is it academic, or are there tools that our kids need to help be successful for this standard? It also opens the door just to communication between you, because there's life that goes on outside of these four walls. So here's what one of our rubrics would look like for an assignment coming home. One of the feedbacks we got from last year is, okay, we have a 1 to 4, but what does that mean for this specific standard? So we took your feedback, and Lindsay actually created a learning standards breakdown for every single standard, kinder through 5th grade, that breaks down what a 1, 2, 3, or 4 is for that standard. Okay? So I'm giving you a 3rd grade example. This is math, and this is their units of measure. Okay? So to be at a 1, which is at our emerging, okay, still learning about what this is, can identify basic of units of measure with help. So, okay, we can identify basic units of measure, but I really need assistance in doing this. Going to a 2, okay, so we can measure or estimate and using standards of units, but we still need that guidance piece. But now here is grade level, okay? This is proficiency. Can measure, estimate, and solve one-step problems using standard units. So we're now able to go in and solve a one-step word problem using a measurement. Okay? But now, for our babies like, ooh, that we want to give a little nudge, give a little push, getting them to a 4. Well, to be a 4, we're now moving into that sophistication of being able to solve real-world multi-step problems. So that's more than one step using addition, subtraction, multiplication. Okay? Addition, subtraction, and division. Involving mass and volume with explanations. Okay, so really able to take it that above and beyond. Now you will find that when we start going over rubrics, and I had this last year, we went over what the expectations were for a 3 and how to get to a 4. And I had quite a few friends that were like, I'm good with a 3. A 3 is great. That's going to challenge me. That's going to push me. You know, Mrs. Cadell, like, I'm cool with that. And then there are some kids that we had to have a conversation with. Well, I want you to try for a 4. What can you do? What do you think? How can you take the feedback that I'm giving you to feed forward to work your way up to a 4? It was also beautiful conversations of, hey, we're at a 2. Let's look to see what elements do you need to get to that 3? Where can I support you? Where do you feel you need some small group help with? Do you want it with me? Do you feel more comfortable with Ms. Lassiter? And we get to have those conversations. Everything about what we do is going to be utilizing feedback to feed forward. Right? And because of this, we get to celebrate the process and break the fear of failure. This is huge, you guys. I saw it firsthand last year with my 5th graders. Of kids who were coming in new to our school, standards-based grading was new to all students. And it took about a month, and kids were like, okay, Mrs. Cadell, I'm at a 2. Can I come to your small group today? Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Mrs. Cadell, I'm at a 3. What can we do to push it a little bit further? I had one kid who goes, well, I'm at a 1. I'll see you at your table, Mrs. Cadell. Okay? But they were not afraid. They knew, like, it did not mean that they were a failure. It just meant, hey, we got room to grow. We have things to work on. Okay? Even giving a pre-assessment where almost everybody was in 1s and 2s, we all got to laugh, and I got to say, see, I told y'all, we're all at 1s and 2s right now. And they're like, well, why? I said, because you've never seen this before. And it just, you guys, when I mean like it breaks the fear of failure, do you know how awesome it is to have kids coming in and being able to advocate from themselves exactly what they need and not trying to hide it because they're afraid that, well, someone's going to see my score and I'm embarrassed. Mm-mm. It lends to open, honest conversations and beautiful celebrations. Alrighty, so my favorite part of the night, toddle is a blessing, okay? Toddle is a blessing. So I have a QR code up there for you. If you do not have our Toddle Family app, this will take you to the web browser portal, which, if honestly though, if you are struggling using the app, I highly recommend that once a week you log on to Toddle through a computer on a web browser. It is a lot easier to navigate. Okay? But now, I don't have a lot of time when I'm at home to be in front of a computer, so I need to be able to have my phone in front of me in my bed, and that's how I check my child. I have a kindergartner, just so you guys know. So when I'm checking her toddle reports and everything, I'm using it on my app because I'm laying in bed, to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to walk you guys through one of the easiest ways to get to viewing your child's grades. Okay? So when you log in, if you want to go ahead and open up your Toddle Family app, and you're going to see, if you didn't know, my little girl's name is Ellery. We call her Ellie for short. And once you have it opened, I want you to click on Gradebook. Okay, and there's a couple steps to this, and don't worry, we'll be sending out a reminder to walk you guys through. But this really is going to be the easiest way for you guys to view where your child is at on standards. Alrighty, so once you hit Gradebook, you're going to see this. Okay, yours will look, maybe it's a smidge different. Like I said, my baby's in kinder. But if you go down to the corner where it says More, go ahead and click on that. All right. From here, I promise only one more step. Okay. You're going to click on Subject Standards. And I promise I will give this to you step by step. I know you're going to go home and then you're going to get a notification of an assignment entered, and you're like, wait, how do I view this again? Where do I go to see what standards this is under? All right, so then once you click on Subject Standards, from here, you're going to see all of your kids' subjects across the top. Okay, so whichever child you selected, it's now going across. So if you want to see where your baby is at in PYP language, and that's one I use as an example, you can click on math, you can click on social studies, science. Okay, you're going to be able to scroll down, and anywhere you see a score, you can click on that score. And what that will give you is a line plot of the history of your child for that standard for this school year. So remember, we are working on a process. We are working towards standard proficiency at the end of the year, meaning we're going to have multiple data entries per standard. And on this view, as you can see, name the author and illustrator of a text. Okay, my baby is currently at a 2, which is fine, beginning of the year. She's in kinder, she's 5. Okay, but when I click on that, I'm like, hey, she's at 2, she's developing, that's great. But I can click on it and see, okay, because if we're in April and I'm like, okay, like, is this, like our end of the year concept? Is this a new standard we're introducing? I can click on it and see how many times a score, whether formative, summative, observation, has been put in, and see kind of what's the trend. Okay, so from here, like I said, the score that's going to be showing is going to be the most recent entry. It will not tell you if it was a formative or a summative. It's just going to be whatever the most recent entry was for that standard, which for our babies is what we want to see, because this is how we're going to be able to support them. Okay? So I hope this is a lot friendlier of a way to view where your kids are at with their standards. And remember, 3 is grade level proficiency. It is okay if they are not at 4s. It's okay if we have a 4 sprinkled in here or there. It's okay if we're still living in 1s and 2s. Okay? We're at the beginning of the school year and we are celebrating the process, not just the ending. Alrighty, guys. So, thank you for coming tonight. I hope this was helpful and brings you life, and that toddle really is a blessing. Okay. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. This was all recorded, so if you're like, oh, I need to go back and look at the 1 to 4 scale for knowledge for subjects and concepts, you'll be able to do so. And feel free to email Mrs. Rodriguez or I for any additional questions that you may have. But we got you out before aftercare's over. You're welcome. All right, everybody, have a great evening. Thank you.